She said she was out volunteering. I was proud of her, until I dropped by the shelter with lunch and no one there had heard her name. That night, I followed her, watched her walk into a downtown loft and kissed the man who'd been the best man at our wedding. When she got home, she said, "You never asked what I needed." But what I did next made sure she'd never lie in that loft again. I'm not the kind of guy who checks his wife's phone. I never snooped, never stalked her social media. I believed in trust. Maybe that made me stupid. My name's Kyle. I'm 38. I live in St. Paul, Minnesota. I build bridges for a living, real ones. I work long hours, come home late, and I don't ask for much. I don't go out drinking, I don't gamble, I don't screw around. I thought doing the right thing was enough. I thought love was something you could trust. I met Rachel when I was 29. We were both at a University of Minnesota alumni dinner, raising money for some scholarship fund. I didn't even want to be there, but a buddy dragged me along. She was loud, confident, and funny. I'm the quiet one. Somehow we clicked. We got married in 2018. It was a big wedding, her dream, not mine. I didn't care about flowers or first dances. I just wanted to be married to her. I remember her vows. "You're my peace," she said. "You make me feel safe." She cried when she said it. I believed her. About a year ago, she started talking about how she wanted to do more. "Helping people gives me purpose," she said. She told me she wanted to volunteer at a women's shelter downtown. Said they needed people to help sort clothes and do admin work. I said that sounded great. She said it would be every Tuesday and Thursday night. The first few weeks, she'd come home around 9 or 10, sometimes later. Said she stayed to talk with some of the women. I never questioned her. I even gave her gas money and offered to help with donations. Then one Tuesday in April, I had a slow day at work. Around lunchtime, I thought it would be nice to surprise her. I picked up her favorite burrito bowl and drove to the shelter she said she volunteered at. It was called Haven House. The woman at the front desk was friendly. Older, short gray hair, glasses. I asked if Rachel was there. Gave her Rachel's full name. She looked at her clipboard, then back at me. "We don't have anyone by that name here," she said. "Maybe she volunteers in the evenings?" She shook her head. "I've been here 6 years. I know all our evening folks." I walked back to my truck and sat there for 20 minutes. I didn't know what to do with what I'd just heard. I wasn't ready to believe what my gut was already screaming at me. That night, I didn't say anything to her. I needed to see it for myself. So Thursday, I left work early and parked on a side street near her house. At 5:42 p.m., she walked out the front door, tote bag over her shoulder, like always. She got in her Civic and headed downtown. I followed her. She didn't go anywhere near Haven House. Instead, she parked outside a modern loft building in Lower Town. Swiped a key fob to get inside. 5 minutes later, I saw a guy step out onto the little balcony with a drink in his hand. My heart stopped. It was Drew. Drew was my best man. My college roommate. My closest friend for years. He moved to Chicago for work in 2022. That's what Rachel told me. I hadn't seen him since. He wasn't supposed to be here. Then I saw Rachel open the front door and walk straight into his arms. They kissed. Not just a peck. Like they'd done it 100 times. Like it was normal. I felt something crack deep inside me. I drove home without thinking. Sat on the couch in silence until she got back around 10:15 p.m. She walked in, kissed me on the forehead like nothing had happened. I could smell cologne on her. It wasn't mine. She poured herself a glass of wine and started scrolling through her phone. I asked her how the shelter was. "Oh, it was a tough night," she said, not looking up. One of the women had a breakdown. We stayed late to calm her down. I nodded. Didn't say a word. Just watched her lie to my face. The next morning, I asked her why she never invited me to come help her at the shelter. She said, "It's my thing. I need something for myself." That night, I confronted her. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I just looked her in the eyes and said, "Where do you go every Tuesday and Thursday?" She froze. The silence felt like it stretched forever. Then she said, "You never asked what I needed." It took everything in me not to scream. I walked away, went to the garage, and sat in my truck for an hour. My hands were shaking. That's when I decided I wasn't going to yell or beg or cry. I was going to bury her lie. I didn't sleep much that night. I laid in bed beside her, watching her scroll her phone like she had nothing to hide. She laughed once at some video. It made my skin crawl. My plan started the next day. I didn't want revenge that felt petty. I wanted the kind of revenge that stuck with her, that made her remember what she destroyed. I started by pulling every bit of paperwork I had on our lives: bank accounts, credit cards, the mortgage, her car title. I handled most of the finances in our house. She didn't care about numbers, just passwords. I changed every one. We had a joint account, and separate ones too. I left the joint alone for now, but I drained mine. I rerouted my direct deposit. Opened a new account at a credit union downtown. Quiet. Private. Then I called a lawyer. His name was Martin Briggs. My buddy Craig used him during his divorce. Said he was cold and fast. That's what I wanted. I told him what I knew about the affair, the lies, the betrayal. He asked me if I had proof. I said, "Not yet, but I will." The next Tuesday, I followed her again. This time, I got pictures. Her car outside the loft. Her walking in. Her and Drew on the balcony with wine glasses. Her in a robe, leaning on him like it was their place. I sent those pictures to Martin. I also checked the property records for that loft. It was in Drew's name. Bought 3 months ago. He never moved to Chicago. That was just part of the cover. She was never planning on telling me. That week, I didn't say anything. I cooked her dinner. Asked about her volunteer nights. Pretended to care. Every lie she told me, I just nodded like I believed her. Then I went further. I started digging through her email. She'd once saved the password on the shared laptop. Rookie mistake. I found dozens of emails to Drew, some of them long, emotional. She talked about how she felt trapped in her life, how I never saw her, how Drew made her feel alive. But one line stuck out. She wrote, "Once we're settled, I'll tell him. I just need to be smart about the timing. He's not the type to take this well." They were planning to keep me in the dark until she was ready to walk out. That wasn't going to happen. On Thursday, I didn't follow her. I went to the loft. Drew answered the door shirtless. He looked shocked to see me. He started to talk, but I walked right past him. He tried to block me, big mistake. I shoved him. Hard. He stumbled back into the couch. Rachel came out from the kitchen. She froze when she saw me. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. "Kyle, what are you doing here?" she said. I looked her dead in the eye. "You forgot to cover your tracks." She started crying. Of course she did. Drew tried to step in, talking about how it just happened and we never meant to hurt you. I laughed. I think that scared them more than anything. "You were the best man at my wedding," I said. "You stood next to me and handed me the ring." Rachel whispered, "You were always so distant. I didn't feel like you loved me anymore." I kept my voice calm. "I did love you, but now I don't feel anything." I dropped an envelope on the counter. Inside were printed emails, photos, copies of texts, everything. "This is what I'm sending to my lawyer," I told them. "And if either of you even think about messing with me again, I'll make sure your boss, your family, and everyone you know gets a copy too." Rachel said nothing. I walked out, got in my truck, and left. I didn't look back. After that night at the loft, Rachel didn't come home. She sent me a text the next day that just said, "I think it's best if I stay at Drew's for now. We both need space. I'll come by to get my things next week." I didn't reply. I didn't need her to come back. And I didn't want her taking anything else with her. That weekend, I packed up every single thing she'd left behind. Clothes, shoes, makeup, books, even her yoga mat. And boxed them up. I changed the locks that same day. I left the boxes in the garage and messaged her once. "Your stuff is boxed. It'll be in the garage for a week. After that, it's going to the dump." She didn't reply. Now, here's where things took a sharp turn I didn't expect. About 2 weeks after she left, I got a call from Martin, my lawyer. He sounded more interested than usual. Kyle, he said, did you know your wife has been applying for personal loans using your joint income? I didn't. Turns out she'd used my W-2s documents she found in our filing cabinet and added them to applications for 2 online loans totaling almost $18,000. Loans I never signed off on. She had it all sent to a P.O. box I didn't know about. It had started 6 months ago. That's when I realized her affair wasn't just emotional. It wasn't just betrayal. It was theft. Martin told me we needed to act fast. If we could prove fraud before the divorce was final, it would affect the settlement. Big time. So I dug deeper. I started looking at all our accounts. The credit cards had weird charges I never noticed before, charges in Drew's name. I found a receipt for a weekend stay at a cabin in Ely, Minnesota. She told me she was at a women's retreat. I called the place, asked who the reservation was under. Rachel and Andrew. The woman told me. Nice couple. I was done playing nice. That Monday, Rachel showed up at the house while I was at work. She must have expected the garage code to still work. It didn't. She called me 5 times in a row. I let it go to voicemail. Then she texted me. I deserve to get my things. You can't legally lock me out until the divorce is final. I texted back. You committed financial fraud. You gave up legal standing the minute you stole from me. Come with a cop or don't come at all. She didn't come, but Drew did. 2 days later, I caught him trying to sneak into the garage through the side door. Dumb move. I was home early, sitting in the driveway. I walked up behind him and said, "Looking for something?" He jumped, stammered, said Rachel had asked him to grab some stuff. I told him the cops would be on their way in 5 minutes if he didn't turn around. He left. Fast. But the best part? I had it all on camera. The side of my house has a motion sensor cam I installed myself last year after some car break-ins in the neighborhood. It caught Drew trying to pick the lock. Martin loved that. 3 days later, I was served court documents. Rachel wasn't just trying to get alimony. She was suing me for emotional distress. Said I had created a hostile environment, that my coldness and emotional neglect caused her suffering and drove her into another relationship. She was asking for $3,000 a month. I almost laughed. Then I got serious. Martin filed a counterclaim immediately, with full documentation. Photos. Messages. Proof of fraud. The video of Drew trying to break in. Her fake volunteering story. The loans. But I wasn't done. Remember that email Rachel wrote to Drew? The one where she said, "I just need to be smart about the timing"? Turns out Martin had a contact in the county clerk's office. We filed a subpoena for all communications connected to that P.O. box. There were over 50 pieces of mail tied to fake accounts. Rachel's signature was on every single one. And guess what? Drew co-signed 2 of them. We turned it all over to the police. What started as divorce papers turned into a full-blown criminal investigation. And I made one last move. I sent copies of everything, emails, receipts, court filings, to Rachel's parents. She was still close with them. They were old-school Midwestern folks who didn't play around with liars or thieves. 2 days later, her dad called me. I hadn't spoken to him in over a year. "Kyle," he said, "I don't know what the hell she was thinking. I'm sorry." He hung up before I could say anything back. By the time the court date rolled around, things had spiraled far beyond just a divorce. Rachel showed up to court looking like a stranger. Hair tied back, no makeup, a long black coat, like she was mourning something. Maybe she was. Her freedom, maybe. Her reputation. Drew didn't show. He'd been hit with charges for attempted break-in and co-signing fraudulent documents. He tried to claim he didn't know what she was doing, but once they found his signature on the loan paperwork, he got quiet. His lawyer advised him to settle everything fast and disappear. Rachel sat across from me in court, next to her lawyer. She didn't look at me once. Martin laid it all out. The fake volunteering. The affair. The emails. The loans. The camera footage of Drew. The financial records. He even printed out a list of every lie she told over the past year, backed up by proof. It was like watching a building collapse, one brick at a time. Her lawyer tried to paint her as emotionally abandoned, tried to say I worked too much, that I left her lonely. Martin didn't even argue that. He just handed the judge a manila folder labeled intentional fraud and deceit. Inside were Rachel's own words from her emails and messages. Her plan to keep me in the dark. Her laughing about how he still thinks I'm saving lives on Tuesdays. The judge wasn't amused. Here's how it ended. The divorce settlement. I kept the house. I kept the truck, the savings, and the retirement accounts. Rachel got nothing. No alimony. Not a cent. The legal fallout. Rachel was charged with fraud and identity theft. She took a plea deal, 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and a permanent mark on her record. Drew? Fired from his tech job after the charges hit the news. His company had a strict code of ethics. Turns out trying to break into your ex-best friend's house doesn't look good on a background check. But that wasn't the end of it. A few months after the dust settled, I got a message on Facebook from Rachel's younger sister, Megan. She wanted to meet for coffee. We met at a quiet diner off Snelling Avenue. She said she just wanted to clear the air. Turns out, Rachel had been lying long before Drew. Megan told me about another guy, a coworker, back in 2020. It ended fast, and Rachel cried about how guilty she felt and promised never again. I never knew about it. Megan thought I did. I didn't. But it made things clearer. Rachel wasn't just unfaithful. She was a liar down to her core. She got off on keeping secrets. She liked control. And when I stopped making her feel special every second of the day, she looked for someone who would. She didn't want love. She wanted attention. Constant, reckless attention. That day, I went home and burned our wedding album. Every photo, every copy of our vows, every note she ever wrote me. I tossed it into my backyard fire pit and watched it all turn to ash. 6 months later, I saw Rachel in passing at a gas station in Woodbury. She looked tired, worn out. She was filling up a beat-up car, wearing a hoodie and leggings. No makeup. She didn't see me. I didn't feel a thing. That's when I knew it was over. Not just the marriage. The hate, too. I didn't care anymore. She was just someone I used to know. Someone who wrecked her own life because she thought no one would catch her. I won't pretend I'm some perfect man. I buried myself in work. I wasn't always good at listening. But I never lied. I never cheated. I never broke what we had. She did. And I made sure every single lie came back to crush her. I still live in the same house. I rebuilt the kitchen myself last fall. Got a dog. His name's Diesel. He follows me everywhere and doesn't lie to me. Every now and then, people ask if I'd ever date again. Maybe. But I'm in no rush. Sometimes revenge doesn't look like rage or fire or fists. Sometimes it looks like walking away with your life intact, while the ones who wronged you have to live with the mess they made. Forever.